continuing with a mini seminar that we started at 2 o'clock, and now it's 4:30, actually 4:43. So today we're going to talk about anger, how to deal with anger empathically. But before that, I just want to clue you all in, and we're not able to attend the first part of the seminar, what we're dealing with when we mention needs, because all of us have different needs, and you see the little triangle there, beginning with physical, mental, emotional needs, and social needs, and even needs for fun. Everybody has a need for fun too, right? Krishna has a need for fun too. He has a lot of fun. And ultimately, our ultimate need is a need for Krishna consciousness. But to be stable and steady in spiritual life, one should be aware of all their needs, and that's the individual responsibility, and deal with them. And I'm going to quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Bhajana Rahasya, who talks about, it's from the Bhakti Goloka, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he talks about the importance of being aware of our basic needs. How about that? So, very short quote. It's from the 12th chapter called Sadhu Vritti. From all these conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, it should be understood that performing devotional service to Sri Hari is the only purpose of life. There is no other purpose. Pretty good. Unless one makes the gross and subtle bodies favorable for devotional service, one cannot engage in such. There is a need, and this Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling us how to make the gross and subtle bodies. For those of you who don't know what gross and subtle bodies are, I'll explain. Gross body is what you see here. Now, we're using the word gross not in disgusting. You know, usually in English when you say, that's really gross, it means disgusting, doesn't it? But gross means something that's tangible. Or for those of you who know the nomenclature, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The space is basically tangible. Panchamahabhuta. So we have a gross body and a subtle body, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we have to make them favorable to engage in advance in devotional service. And here's how he says to do it. There's a need for some arrangements in order to obtain a favorable condition in these two bodies. Remember? Okay, subtle body, I didn't explain what that was. That's the mind intelligence and false ego. Or sometimes in the West you call that the astral body. Subtle body. It's the body you take from one gross body to another. You know, reincarnation. Does everybody here believe in reincarnation? No? Good. No rascals here. All right, so reincarnation, we reincarnate. We take again another body. Even in this body, we're taking bodies, dehinos minyata dehe, komaram javaram jara, jovanam jara, right? From boyhood to old age. So reincarnation means we take the subtle body and we find a gross body, you know, this thing, Panchamahabhuta, or flesh and blood, whatever you want to call it. And we keep the subtle body until we go back to God. And we go back to God and we sort of dissolve the subtle body and take a spiritual mind, intelligence, and real ego. How about that? And a spiritual body we have that's made of Satchidananda. So, but while we're here, we got to take care of it. For example, if you have a car is a gross body. It fits on top of your gross body, doesn't it? Or if it's outside of your gross body. Let's say if you have a car, what happens if you don't take care of it? It breaks down. You can't get where you want to go. And so you may have all the good intentions in the world, but if you don't take care of your car, you can't do anything, at least in today's world. Because you got to take care of the car. How does it mean to take care of the car? You change the oil. I know some devotees who say, Krishna will take care of the car. If Krishna wanted the oil changed, he'll do it himself. The one thing you don't read about is Krishna is a car mechanic, right? That's what you're for. That's what you're there for, to change the oil in your car, right? So you got to take care of it. Change the tires, change the oil in the car, do whatever else, spark plugs if they still have them. or the batteries. You got to change. So the same thing with this body. This body is analogous to a car, right? Analogous means basically it's like a car. So it has a pump there, circulatory system. It has an electrical system. It has all sorts of interesting systems, that are going on. You got to take care of it. I mean, just like recently, I had an operation. I went to the body mechanic, the body shop. The body shop was called Duke Hospital. Anyway, they run a body shop. That's all it is. And they replace certain parts, new brain, new whatever. No, they didn't replace my brain. I still got the same one. So, and we're partially bionic right now. So anyway, you got to take care of these things. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, first, in order to maintain this gross body, there's a need to accumulate a house. Household items, grains, and drinks. See, it's good to have a house. For the prosperity of the subtle body, one needs proper knowledge and proper occupation. In order to make the bodies completely favorable for devotional service, there's a need to situate them above the modes of material nature. That doesn't happen right away, believe me. Due to the results of fruitive activities from time immemorial, whatever nature and desires a living entity develops is certainly a mixture of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the three gunas, sattva, raja, tama. By first enriching the mode of goodness, in other words, this is a gradual process. Like when we're eating, we need to eat. So what do we eat? We eat food in the mode of what? Goodness. Food that's not too hot, not too spicy, not stale, not decomposed, not putrid, hopefully not. And just like that, that's our prasadam. Actually, generally devotees take prasadam because not generally. Hopefully, they always take prasadam because prasadam is transcendental. So we fulfill the bodily needs and the subtle needs by engaging in the mode of goodness, right? Like if we have a need for attaining knowledge, then we study the Vedic literatures, or we study things that can help us in our devotional service. Like I mentioned previously, I study psychology sometimes. So by first enriching the mode of goodness, one should diminish and defeat passion and ignorance and make goodness prominent. When the mode of goodness is completely under the control of devotional service, then it becomes nirguna. By following this gradual process, that one's body, mind, and environment becomes fit for devotional service. So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is corroborating what we just discussed about needs. And if our needs are not met, then so many different things happen. So now we're going to talk about needs in terms of a big problem that many of us have, which is called anger, krodha. And anger is sometimes enjoyable, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's productive, and sometimes not. I'm not decrying anger because we have incarnations of the Supreme Lord who used anger, right? Was Nrsingadev basically peace and love, Did Lord Nrsingadev dance kumbaya with Hiranyakasipu? He danced, but it wasn't kumbaya. It was the death dance. So Lord Nrsingadev was certainly angry, and he was so angry that he was killing all the different soldiers of Hiranyakashipu too, and nobody could pacify him except for who? Prahlad Maharaj. So for the Lord, that's how you get rid of his anger. It's real easy to get rid of God's anger. You just give him his devotee. Just take your son and put him in front of the Lord, and he'll be happy. So anyway, so that's real easy. But as far as our anger, sometimes we have productive anger. There's devotees with productive anger, like Hanuman, right? He burnt Lanka to ashes. He, like when he first went to Lanka, I love Hanuman actually, as you can see. When he first went to Lanka, what did he do? He was, of course, trying to find Sita Devi first. He was getting ready to kill Ravan, too. But then he remembered, he was angry when he saw Ravan. He was flying all around Ravan's court. Ravan was in bed drunk. And that's why you shouldn't drink. Actually, it's interesting, all these movies, they always depict the demons as getting drunk and everything like that. Why should we drink? It's a demoniac thing, isn't it? I mean, generally depicted all these demons, they're lying, drunk. So Ravan, he's lying in bed, and Hanuman just sees him and thinks, here's the rascal, I'm going to just one punch, kill him. And then he thinks, hears Ram's voice, no, this is not your duty. Your duty is to find Sita, and the whole business to glorify me, not you, Hanuman. So Hanuman pulls back his punch. He pulls his punch. But then later on, whenever he finds Sita, he really does get angry. There's some of Ravana's sons are set, like Jambu Mali. You know the story? And I don't know if I tell this. You should tell this. But anyway, the first thing Hanuman does is when Jambu Mali comes out, this is in the Ramayana, the Valmiki Ramayana, he passes urine in Jambu Mali's mouth. You didn't know this. See, I'm a student of the Ramayana. So he passes urine in Jambu Mali's mouth, and Jambu Mali, oh, what are you doing? He said, I'm a monkey. What do you expect? So anyway, that's definitely anger. And then, of course, Hanuman eventually kills him and kills so many Rakshasas, set the Lanka on fire. So there's bona fide anger. I mean, Arjuna, of course, in the battle of Kurukshetra, and how the Bhimsen killed the sons of Dhritarashtra. It's bona fide anger. So, but generally, our anger is not like that. Like sometimes, of course, sometimes a spiritual authority is not exactly on the complete spiritual platform. Will say, my anger is Krishna's wrath upon you. Or even I had one person when I was young, who should remain nameless, not in the Krishna conscious movement, who said, God has made me angry at you. In other words, I'm a manifestation of God's potency. So not really. Yeah, it's God's potency. That is true. It's Lord Shiva's potency because Lord Shiva is present in anger. That's true. But it was mostly inappropriate. So today we're going to read from the Bhagavad Gita and talk about anger and how to deal with anger. And reading from the 21st text of chapter 16 in Bhagavad Gita. So this is a verse that I think you're all familiar with. Trividam narakasyedam dwaram nashanamatmanaha kamakrodas tata lobas tasmadetat trayam jajet. There are 3 gates leading to this hell. And Krishna is referring to the hell of taking repeated births and deaths in demoniac species. That's the previous verse. That's a hell. Lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. And Prabhupada explains the beginning of demoniac life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these 3 enemies, which can kill the self, is so heavy, to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. Wow. So it seems like it's really important to give up those 3 things, isn't it? From Prabhupada's expert, there's no possibility. That's an absolute statement. When you say all or none or no possibility, that's an absolute statement. There is no possibility. So it's absolutely essential. So generally, our anger in this world comes from something described by Krishna in the Gita, that Dhyayata Vishak Punsam Sangostesha Bhajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Krota Bhajayate, which means when you start to contemplate something, you get attached to it. And when you get attached to it, then you really want it. It's called lusting after it. Lust doesn't only refer to like sexual expression. It also refers to something I gotta have. Like sometimes the children who don't experience sex at that age, they see an advertisement on TV and they said, I have to have this, I have to have that. And I remember when there was one child that they were in Walmart and they said, I want something. Whatever it was not important. And the parents said, no, we we're not going to get it right now. And the child said, I'm going to stay here in Walmart until you get it for me. So the father says, okay. Leaves the kid in Walmart, drives away, comes back an hour later, and the kid is like that still. And so finally, the father had to get the kid, whatever the kid was asking for. So, you don't want to get arrested by the police. You left your kid in Walmart. So it really means that we're frustrated because we have some desire. Therefore, most anger, it occurs in the home. Most anger and violence occur in the home because generally you want more things or more frustrated with dealing with people in the home or can occur in the office too, but mostly in the home because there's greater frustration there. I mean, sometimes it occurs when you're driving a car, someone cuts you off, and you just go, kill the person. Let me get out of the car and smash him. So, but generally, statistically occurs in the home. I mean, let me give you the example of one nice man I know who had 10 million wives. His name was Chitraketu. You know Chitraketu? 10 million wives. I mean, it's a lot. I guess it's a little exaggeration. 10 million would be kind of hard, isn't it? I think it's kind of difficult. So just hearing the story makes you want to take sannyas. So anyway, so he had 10 million wives, and only one wife, for a variety of reasons, had a kid. Then the other 9,999,999 got angry. They were angry. And they killed the kid because they were frustrated. They all want kids, and also they wanted attention from their husband. And obviously, when your wife gives birth to a child, if you have 9,999,999 other wives, you're not going to pay as much attention to them as you would to the one who gave birth, right? And it's anger. Or even with children sometimes, we've experienced that, someone has a son or a daughter, and then right after that, another son or daughter is born. The first child gets really angry because he's not getting attention anymore. Anyone has experienced that? I did. I was like that. I was really angry. Still am. 70 years later, that my mother never loved me. She did love me, but anyway. So this is the desires that we have that are unfulfilled, or we can fulfill, we want to fulfill them. So basically, it comes out of a sense of hate or passing judgment. I mean, for example, when my desire to get attention from my mother was not fulfilled, at first I said to my mother, "You don't love me anymore." But then after that, it was, "I hate you. You're a horrible mother." I mean, she wasn't. She was a fantastic, wonderful, ecstatic mother. Everything's ecstatic in Krishna consciousness. Kirtan was ecstatic, Prashadam was ecstatic, you're ecstatic, I'm ecstatic, ecstatic class. So she was ecstatic. But she's a nice mother, but this was me. I was just passing judgment on her. Remember we talked about that in the seminar, passing judgment, giving her a name. And this is unproductive. Krishna's anger, as I mentioned before, is very productive, but that sort of anger we have is not productive. Spiritual master's anger, if he's a bona fide spiritual master, his anger is actually productive. It's a loving exchange. Sometimes, if the spiritual master is not quite on the highest level, it may not be productive, like in the case of Vashishta Muni. Maharaj Nimi, he was one of the disciples of Vashishta Muni. We read about this recently in the Bhagavatam. And this king did a sacrifice he chanted Hare Krishna basically without his guru's permission. Because his guru was away on the heavenly planets collecting donations from the demigods. And they give more. If you want to do a home program, don't do it here. Do it up there. If you got an invitation from Indra, take it right away. So anyway, so Nimi thought, Guru Maharaj is busy collecting donations, so let me do the sacrifice. Let me chant Hare Krishna, devotional sacrifice. His guru comes back and says, "Because you did it without me, I curse you to die." He said, "Nir deha," which means without a body. So he reciprocated with his guru, gave him some guru dakshin at that point. And he said, I curse you, Guru Maharaj, to die too. So they both, guru and disciple, died together. It's love. So, true story. This is there. It's actually in the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and so many Vedic literatures, this story is there. So that's not really what we're talking about, bona fide anger that a devotee feels. So there is bona fide anger, let's say, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry with Jagai and Madai for hitting Lord Nityananda. Because that anger was the desire for the safety of Lord Nityananda. It wasn't based upon destruction. So you have to really distinguish whether the anger is based, sometimes anger can be based on protection. Like if you see your child standing in the middle of the street and a car is coming and you just grab him, get out of there. That's productive anger. So anyway, so we get angry because of judgment, because we're judging people like that. As Prabhupada said one time, give the dog a bad name and hang him. So in order to get angry with someone, we have to actually blame them or give them a name. If we think he's a nice guy, we're not going to get angry with him. It's kind of hard. Then we blame our anger on the other person. We actually say, you made me angry. And of course, we may do something. But no one can make us angry. It's our own frustration due to a desire which is not being fulfilled. And we're demanding, some of you attend my previous seminar will remember some of the words I've used. We're demanding that the person fulfill our need or desire, like I did with my mother. Demanding. You have to do it. You're supposed to do it. You're my mother. Even though she had a little baby at the time, my brother, who I love also. Very nice. So anyway, the need, all right, let's get back to it. So the reason I was angry, the reason people are angry is they have a need for something. I mean, my need was a need for love from my mother, which is perfectly all right. A child should have some love for the mother, from the mother. But it was a desire for her to do something at a specific time or demand from her that caused me to pass judgment on her in this way. In other words, it was non-productive. So there's a way to deal with this sort of anger. Not if you're a little kid like I was. If you're a little kid like I was, that's the nature of children. I'm not going to go to it like a 3-year-old, which I was at that time. And, of course, I can't talk to myself at 3 years old. There's no time machine, So you can't say to a 3-year-old, now, think about this. What is your ultimate need? You may be able to do it in a very subtle way. But with us, and most of us are adults, that here's how we should deal with anger. Become aware of it. Now, you don't want to repress or suppress anger. The reason is that when you repress or suppress anger, what happens? Gets worse, and it comes out a different way, like a balloon. Of course, let's tell you, the difference between repression and suppression is repression means that you really put it out of your consciousness. You deny that you really were angry. And you say, no, I'm peaceful. Your eyes are red, shooting fire. I'm not angry. And you're not even like introspective enough to admit that you are angry or you were angry. But that's repression. Suppression is you're aware of it, but you're just holding it back. I just want to smash this guy in the mouth. And they both have the same effect. That, in other words, you're really harming yourself. And it's interesting, when you get angry at someone, you're actually just being self-destructive. I mean, not even psychologically, but physically too. Because there's many studies that show that some diseases, many diseases I'm not going to mention, they come from being angry, repressed or suppressed anger. So, because it eventually does come out. I mean, maybe you got angry at work and you come home and your wife says, "How are you, dear?" And you say, "Ah!" Any of you ladies ever experienced that with her? I'm sure you did. So, what did I say? or, it may come opposite. The wife may do the same thing as she comes home from work. So therefore, it's not our solution. The Christian has to get rid of the anger. It's not to suppress it or repress it, but be aware of where that anger is coming from, some unexpressed or unfulfilled need. And so that's the best way to deal with anger, to be aware of it and to develop a different strategy for dealing with that particular emotion or that particular need. So that's the empathic way of dealing with it, rather than turning it inside or turning it on someone else. And then once you've understood this, the anger sort of dissipates. So anger is good in that respect, to be aware of it. I compare anger sometimes to the light on your dashboard. It's called an idiot light or something. You used to have lights. Now they have meters. But anyway, you used to have lights on the dashboard when the oil ran out. You know about that? When there was no oil. So some people who really are not that intelligent, forgive me for passing judgment, what they do is they just put a piece of tape over the light. You know people who've done that? Who? All right, you're not allowed to say. They just put a tape. Other people will go behind the dashboard and pull the wires out. And no more problem. The light's out, right? Yeah, the car is fine until you. I remember. There's another light that goes on when you're about ready to run out of gas, and devotees. I was with one devotee one time. Said, "We got plenty of gas in the car, plenty of petrol, as you say," and I said, "No, we don't. The light's on." And anyway, I won't mention who it was. And then so we ran out of gas because we ignored the light. And I said, "You're going to get the gas, not me." Right? Anyway, so don't ignore warning signs. So anger, don't ignore it. Deal with it. That's the problem. So that's the point. So that's interesting. So the final thing I want to talk about, basically gave you a hint on how to deal with anger, is something that's very important in developing communities and developing relationships with people, which is gratitude. Now I'm going to read, actually, before I read Prabhupada's quote, I'm going to explain how we express gratitude to each other, because gratitude, well, let me read some things that are studies about gratitude. It says, grateful people have a stronger bond with the local community. Grateful people's income is 7% higher. Good idea. So I'm just giving you like a different, what's in it for me. It's called a whiffim. Happy, grateful people, 7% higher. Think about that. Grateful people have 13% fewer fights, 20% more likely to get better grades. Grateful people have, on the average, 7 years more in their life span. So here's good reasons. I mean, even material reasons. More satisfying relationships. 10% fewer stress-related illnesses. Be more physically fit. Have blood pressure that is lower by 12%. Pretty good. So, anyway. So, of course, we want to be grateful to Krishna and the devotees and people who helped us in the spiritual life. And I'm going to give you a way to express gratefulness. And the need for appreciation is actually a very important need that all of us have. And there's a method to express that gratefulness and to receive the gratefulness and receive the appreciation. And that means the way to do that is to be very specific about what someone did for you and how you feel about it and what need was met. Because we're talking about the need-centered understanding of Krishna consciousness, ultimately the need for self-realization. So let us say let's say the other day, this is a practical example of my own life. As I mentioned, I had an operation and someone cooked dinner for me, who's sitting here, should remain nameless, to protect the good people. Anyways, So someone cooked dinner for me. And I wasn't able to cook for myself because obviously I just was recovering. And so instead of saying just like, hey, you're a good cook, or you're great, the method of expressing is to tell the person basically what they did, specifically, thank you very much for cooking for me, because I feel really happy and connected, and it fulfilled my need for, in other words, connection and relationship and friendship, and that's how you express gratefulness. So, I mean, just like, the person who did it is Champaka, she's sitting there. Let's just give an example. So if I just say, you're a good cook, thank you, how do you feel? All right. It's all right. Everyone always tells me I'm good. So if I say, thank you very much, because I feel really happy, satisfied, cared for, because I have a need for connection, relationship, loving exchange. How do you feel when I say that? Satisfied. So that's how you express gratefulness. And incidentally, I wanted to read these quotes from Prabhupada, because we don't have here it is, all day long. How Prabhupada did that when he was expressing gratefulness for people, to people. Where is it? Gratitude. Whoops. I have this somewhere. I have all these quotes from Prabhupada. Denial, hold on a second. Strategies. Anyway, let me go back here. Give me 1 second. These are all from a seminar. This is my teacher's handbook. So we have this seminar that we've given in different places. In Europe and in America. It's a multi-day seminar, so I'm just trying to find where my grateful quote is from Prabhupada. Here it is, 32. 31, 32. Oh, here it is. Okay. Now listen to how Prabhupada expressed gratefulness. This is a letter to his disciple named Upendra. Please accept my blessings. I am so glad to hear you are released now. He was actually in prison. Not for anything he did wrong. I guess he was a draft dodger. Anyway, Krishna has been very merciful. Here, we'll get to the gratefulness. You have shown a very great example by sticking yourself to chanting Hare Krishna while you were in tribulation. So here's what did Prabhupada observe, something specific. Follow this practice all along in your life, and surely Krishna will accept you in the kingdom of God back to Godhead. So there's an instance. Your strong desire to serve me is very beautiful. Your serving me means serving Krishna. I am also your servant, so I cannot accept service from you or any of my disciples. I accept service from my disciples on behalf of Krishna. Here's another quote. But I am very much happy for your nice spiritual sentiments. Prabhupada's expressing what the devotee did. In London, there may be a temple or not. It does not matter. You're doing very nicely. Otherwise, your engagement in kirtan is very nice. So continue this program in cooperation. Prabhupada's making a request with your other God brothers and sisters, and Krishna will make you very happy. Here's another one. I thank you very much. So Prabhupada was really thanking and feeling gratitude and expressing gratitude to his disciples. There's so many letters. Here's another letter. I thank you very much for installing Radha Giridhari. Those are the deities actually in San Diego, which I worshipped. From my childhood, I was very much fond of Radha Krishna. The Prabhupada's expressing his feelings, like his happiness, his fondness for Radha. And now my good disciples are helping me to open up so many Radha Krishna temples all over the world. It gives me so much pleasure. So see how Prabhupada's connecting like that? Then Prabhupada does a request. This is actually interesting. You're grateful, and then you can express a request. There's a difference between a request and demand. A demand means you get angry if someone doesn't do what you say. A request is, please do it. Now, introduce Rath Yatra. That was my childhood activity. I want to see my disciples all over the world introduce 2 items, opening Radha Krishna temples and Rath Yatra festivals. Please do everything cooperatively, for you will be happy, your countrymen will be happy, and all living entities will be happy. Here's another one. I've studied your activities while in Honolulu, and it gives me great pleasure to find out such a devotee qualified as you are is in our society. I wish you will execute responsibilities in the future in the matter of our society's multi-activities. Here's another one. I've studied, these are letters. I've studied your statements in the papers, and you've repeated my ideas, and at the same time sounded like a politician, and this combination is very effective. This is when my godbrother Amarendra was running for office, and he was using his position to preach from. The name of the political party was called In God We Trust. That was the name of the party. Pretty good, isn't it? Which is supposed to be, you know, one of the mottos in America, In God We Trust. So you certainly are the right man for the preaching work. So I am very much encouraged by this political field in America. He's expressing his pleasure. I do not need to tell you to push on with this work in serious concentration because I see that you're already determined. So in other words, in spiritual life, on a positive note, because one thing is anger, dealing with anger, in spiritual life it's very important to be grateful to others for contributing to their Krishna consciousness, or contributing even to the welfare on a external or we wouldn't say material platform, but at least external platform, the basic needs of people. So if we can imbibe some of these teachings that are there, that are corroborated by the acharyas, then we can actually have a closer, loving, trusting society in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. As Srila Prabhupada states in the Upadesha Amrita, loving exchanges between the devotees is the way that the movement will increase and the movement will move on. So, thank you very much for this brief talk. Any questions or comments before we end? Yes, regarding them.
Is hatred sort of, can that be sort of like an expression of a need?
Yes. Yes, when we hate something, except for your computer, when you hate... Sometimes I love my computer, sometimes I hate it. So when you hate someone or something, you're giving it a label usually. You know, you're like, when I hate my computer, it's just, you stupid, useless piece of junk. You know? Yeah. Anyway, so you're giving it a label, you're angry at it because you have a need for something that's functional, and whatever your need happens to be at that particular time. Once you get in touch with your need, the hate or the anger dissipates. So a devotee, of course, the devotee is known as a Jata Shatrava, sorry. Yudhisthira Maharaj was known as a Jata Shatra, which means he who has no enemies. He doesn't hate anybody. So this should be our aspiration, to get to the point where we don't hate anybody. And the way we get to it is we take responsibility for our own needs. You know, you never find, you know, Prabhupada hating anybody. You know, these advanced devotees. Yudhisthira Maharaj didn't hate anybody. So we should, it's part, like Prabhupada said here in the purport, it's essential that you can't make advancement without dealing with this anger. Hating is anger. So somehow or other, develop a strategy. This is a practical strategy I've given you today about dealing with anger. Anger and hate. A devotee is Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihashtani Shuni Chaiva Svapakacha Pandita Samadarshana. He's Samadarshi. He sees everyone equal. He doesn't have any enemies. And of course, Lord Kapila says that, you know, Tadikshava Kurunika Surida Sarvidainam. He's a friend to all living entities. Jata Shatrava Shanta Shadava Sadabhushana. So, I think on that note, Dichinarayan Prabhu is motioning to me. He wants to make an announcement. Oh, we have another question, yeah.
You told the way of getting out of
Understanding where it's coming from, yeah. Taking responsibility for it, yeah.
For it, but I feel it is only a temporary solution for that one. That's like Bhagavatam expresses, the sixth canto says, like this type of practice is like a Kunjara Seva. Like, you maybe that moment you will be out of that type of
Yes.
feelings, but it's not a permanent solution.
No, the permanent solution is become Krishna conscious. But most of us in this room have not reached that stage right now. So, and you can actually utilize that strategy in a Krishna conscious way too. Because we all have these, we were reading before this statement by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that we have these needs that are necessary to fulfill in order to progress and be stable and steady in Krishna consciousness. So it is part of the process ultimately. But if you're completely pure devotee, don't have to worry about it. But everybody who is a completely pure devotee here, please raise your hands. I don't see anybody. So this strategy is compatible with Krishna consciousness to understand. Because if you do, right now, honestly, most of us, of course that's judgment, but anyway, we do experience anger. And unless we have a means of dealing with it, and actually Krishna himself says, what will repression accomplish? It doesn't accomplish anything to repress a strong emotion like that. In fact, it can be very destructive spiritually, materially. One can commit offenses against Vaishnavas. One can get sick. So this is a way prescribed, actually I would say by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, be aware of your needs. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we mentioned this previously before the RT ceremony. He was very expert in presenting strategies and ways to deal with this material world and progress at a steady pace. And books, different books like Chaitanya Shikshamrita deals with this, and other literatures of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how to live in this world. And some of his instructions are encapsulated in stories. Like you have the Jaiva Dharma, for example, which gives instructions, but not as instructions, as stories. So a lot of what I'm saying is coming from integrating Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings for the modern world, in the modern world. Yes, Gopal. Yes, ultimately the solution is chant purely. But in order to chant purely, we have to be focused on Krishna's holy names. And if I'm feeling angry or hungry, I'm not, don't worry about it. Some of the people here are. If I'm feeling angry or hungry, I'm not going to really be able to chant nicely. I mean, because I'm not one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were nidrahara, giving up eating, giving up sleeping. If I'm tired, it's very hard to concentrate. I mean, is anyone here able to concentrate if they're tired? No. I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? So I need enough sleep. I'm not ready to take 1 pat of butter every 2 days. It might be dangerous to deal with me after that, after a few days of that. So, Gopal, you have a question.
So earlier you were talking about strategies. Some strategies are effective and some aren't.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see a strategy that in the immediate it seems as though it's meeting a need, but then we see years down the line,
Yeah.
perhaps it had
Adverse effects. Yeah.
So how can one become a little bit futuristic to see that, perhaps this may be meeting my need, even in the future it's going to.
Guyam makyati prichati. Does everyone know it? Guyam means like reveal the heart or secret, like the gakyati prichati, sharing. So that's why we have the Association of Devotees. I may say, I have a need for transportation so I can preach Krishna consciousness, so let's get a Tesla. And then you'll say to me, where are you going to get the money from? And I'll say to you, No, I said, because you're a disciple, you have to do what I say. Sell your kidneys. So, So that will not fulfill my need to develop a close relationship with you. Yeah, anyway, so I'm speaking a little facetiously here. So if we discuss these things amongst each other, I think it's really important, like Prabhupada talked about sticks. You know, if you have one stick, you can break it easily. And if you have many sticks, you can't break it. So if we keep in the association of each other, reveal our mind and confidence. I would say the revealing the mind and confidence is so important. We should not overestimate it. It cannot be overestimated. You know, so we all need friends and people we can reveal our mind in confidence. You know, not that you read about in the internet the next day. That Maharaj just revealed his mind in confidence. He watches Star Wars. Which is true. Anyway, that's not confidential information. You know, and then you can see on the internet, like all these pages criticizing me. You know, he thinks he's Luke. So, no, Darth Vader. So anyway, so, does that answer your question? Yeah, so when balancing strategies, we have to think about our needs, all the needs, not just one need. So we don't want to counteract our fulfillment of another need by fulfilling one need. So it takes some thinking, introspection in this world. And you see expert devotees are doing that, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He didn't show himself like externally as a complete renunciate, yet he was aware of his various needs. And you know, these are examples for us. You know, sometimes we try to deny our basic needs. But Krishna says a yogi should neither sleep too much nor eat too much, but mityahara vihara shah. But you moderate in his activities. And everybody has a different need for sleep. You know, some people, Prabhupada said, you know, sometimes people take Prabhupada's quote out of context, where Prabhupada said, anyone who sleeps more than 6 hours is in the mode of ignorance. And we did that in the beginning days of the movement, and we were all falling asleep driving cars. And some people died, and that's really a mode of ignorance. Not to die, but, you know, to die untimely. So, and then Prabhupada, you know, then other times Prabhupada said, if you're going to drive a car all day long, you should sleep at least 8 hours. So the whole point is people should ascertain what they need. You can't impose a standard of needs, your standard of needs on other people. You can. I mean, you can do it, but it's not so great to do it, you know, for relationships. And that's what, in the beginning days of the movement, we were forced to sleep less than 6 hours a night. And I mentioned to the devotees many times when I'd be driving a car, the only time I got a chance to take a nap was at the stoplight. And my alarm clock was the horn from the car behind me. You know, so you beep, beep, okay. I hope all the lights turn red. I was praying for red lights, you know. So I think we have to end. We should end now because it's time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.